So this week I'm starting what I'm calling Countdown to Christmas. This is session 1. Now we've been looking at how God has worked through history to restore the relationship that Adam and Eve broke in the Garden of Eden. We're seeing how Jesus was the culmination of that process. We looked at how people have reacted to Jesus while he was on earth. And so today I'm going to start looking at the detail of Jesus coming. Matthew's Gospel starts with a whole genealogy, beginning from Abraham and ending with Jesus. If you grew up with the King James Version, you probably knew it as the begats. Abraham begat Isaac, begat Jacob, and so on. Now the Jews did keep these genealogies, and they were very important because they wanted to show the purity of their lineage. And we read in Ezra 2 how exiles returning from Babylon, they wanted to find their names in the genealogy, and those who couldn't were excluded from the priesthood because they couldn't prove the purity of their lineage. Matthew includes this genealogy to show that Jesus is the fulfillment of history, starting with Abraham up to the day of Jesus. The genealogy is divided into 3 parts. It starts with Abraham. And we remember how Abraham, or God, made a covenant with Abraham that he would become the father of a great nation. And this nation were the people who would show God to the rest of the world. The second part of the genealogy begins with King David. And King David was their greatest king. It was like the height of Jewish history. He was the king who obeyed God, whose heart was for God. And yes, he made some bad mistakes, but he repented. And he knew that he was doing God's work. That was the high point of the Jewish nation. And the next part of the genealogy begins with a low point, their exile in Babylon. But it ends with Jesus, showing that God came to restore his people, give them back their hope. Also that Jesus came as the one true king. Well, so much for the genealogy. Matthew then announces the birth of Jesus, and how Joseph was given a dream in which he said, Mary will bear a child, and you're to call him Jesus. And Jesus means God saves. And then he mentioned a prophecy from Isaiah 7, where a young woman shall conceive and bear a child, and he will be called Emmanuel, which is God with us. This would probably be a little bit of a startling thing for people of his day to read, because the Jewish people never made an image of God, and that's one of the 10 commandments. You shall not make any graven image. So much so that the Romans and Greek peoples considered them as atheists, because the Romans and Greeks had statues to their gods everywhere. And so they couldn't understand a people who had a god, but no statue, no likeness. But instead of statues, God comes himself in the person of Jesus. And so in a few sentences, Matthew has summed up who Jesus is: God with us and the one who saves. The Christian faith is not good advice about morals. It's good news about the God who comes to rescue us from the mess that we've got ourselves into. Hebrews 1, we read this. In the past, God spoke to our ancestors through the prophets at many times and in various ways. But in these last days, he has spoken to us through his Son. And then he explains who the Son is. The Son is the radiance of God's glory and the exact representation of his being, sustaining all things through his powerful word.
You've come to bring peace, to be loved, to be nearer to us. You've come to bring life, to be light, to shine brighter in us, oh Emmanuel. God You are here, you are holy, we are standing